Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's daily devotion. And today we're looking at the second part of Acts chapter 1, verses 17 to 26, which is that period when the disciples left the Mount of Olives, where they had seen Jesus ascend to heaven, and they went back to Jerusalem and they waited. What do you do when you don't know what to do? That's quite an important question, isn't it? And in a very real sense, never more pertinent than now. I don't know about you, but this situation that we're going through now with the coronavirus and the lockdowns and the opening up really does ask lots of questions of us. And I often feel like I don't know what to do. I've often been really grateful that I'm not the president and having to make these decisions and decide how to play off the health risks versus the economy risks in our country. And I've been very grateful that it's been his decision and not mine to make. Although I'm a little bit cross with him now because having allowed churches to open up, we have to make those decisions, don't we, as to whether or not we should gather again and meet and whether it's safe to do so and wise to do so. And there's all sorts of opinions and all sorts of thoughts. And we need real wisdom from God, and we need to search the scriptures and find out what he is saying to us and what he wants us to do. And so this is quite an apt passage. What do you do when you don't know what to do? What did the apostles do? And there were three things that I think that they did that are worth considering. The first is they devoted themselves to prayer. And that is quite evident throughout this section, and I think it's such an important thing that when you don't know what to do, the one thing you can do is pray. And so I want to challenge you again in this lockdown period to make sure that whatever else you're doing, you're giving time to pray. I want to urge you with all my heart to make sure that every day you take a moment to pray, that you re-establish the discipline of prayer in your life. I think it's such an important thing, and this is such an opportunity to get it back into our lives. The second thing that I noticed about what the apostles did is that they weren't exclusive. They didn't go back and remain unto themselves, just the 11, as if they were the most important people. No, we're first told that in the upper room they had the women who were part of Jesus' party, who traveled with him, and Jesus' family, both his mother and his brothers were with him. And then there were other times where they were up to about 120 people together. I think that that's such an important thing. It's so important that when times are tough and we don't really know what to do, that we don't just reduce ourselves to being by ourselves and don't allow other people into our lives. The church has always run the risk of sometimes being an exclusive club, but it's not that. We've already seen that it exists for other people, those who are not part of it. And we need to make sure that we are not exclusive and that we are open to people who are not part of us, who are different to us, and that we really do consider how we can get that right. And so that was the second thing that they did. The third thing they did, which I found quite interesting, is that they acted on what they did know. And so they, in their hearts, felt that they needed to deal with the issue of Judas. And I think that that's not surprising. Judas was one of their numbers. He'd been with them for 3 years. He'd been a close friend to many of them. And now he's gone and done that awful thing of betraying Jesus. A dreadful thing has come upon him as he committed suicide or died in the field. And I think they had to come to terms with that and deal with it. And so what they did is they searched the scriptures. And then Peter got up and stood up amongst everybody and made some decisive decisions in that regard. I think it's quite impressive what they did. They searched the scriptures. They brought closure according to the issue of Judas. And they decided, because they looked at Psalm 109, that it would be right for them to replace Judas. That the apostolic number needed to be 12, and they needed to find a replacement for him. And so they chose two who had always been with Jesus right from the beginning, at the time of John the Baptist, right to the end, the time of his ascension, that they were witnesses to the resurrection. And then they just chose by lot which one it would be. Did they make the right call? Well, I'm sure they did. Although we never hear about Matthias again, he doesn't seem to be an important part of the future of the church going forward. But he was there, one of the 12, and the fact is that they decided it was important that they became 12 again. And so they acted on what they did know. They didn't act on what they didn't know, but they acted on what they did know. And may we have wisdom to do the same as we search the scriptures, as we discern from God through prayer what he would have us do. Let us act on what we do know. Let us not act on what we don't do. And let's most importantly wait for the Holy Spirit to come upon us and give us that guidance and leading and power that we need to go out in his name. Bless you. See you tomorrow.